Kathy Bender. I am Vice Chair Jad Duncan, and Chair Bender is traveling today and unfortunately was unable to be here at this monumental meeting. And I will call the September 12th meeting of the Sports Authority to order, please. To begin, we'll start with our public comment period pursuant to Tennessee Open Meetings Act. Nobody has signed up today to reach out, and so on today's action items. So we'll move on to our next agenda item. Next on the agenda item is to consider minutes from the August 15th, 2024 meeting and the July 18th ethics training. We have two sets of minutes today, and both of those minutes are in your binder behind tab 2. The first is from last month's meeting on August 15th. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. And then the second set of minutes is from our July 18th ethics training. And I'll also entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second. Thank you. Is there any discussion? No, being no discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. Motion passes. With that, we'll move over to our executive director's report. And with that, we'll turn this over to Monica.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everybody. We have a full house, and it's good to see all of you today. We have a couple of new faces at the table that you may have noticed, and I mentioned it last month in our report, but I do want to introduce Russ Pulley and Victoria Crawford, and I've asked them to each just briefly introduce themselves.
You first.
I knew you was going to do that, Russ.
Greetings, everyone. I am Victoria Crawford. I have resided in Nashville for 3 years. I am also the women's head basketball coach at Fisk University. Thank you. I am excited just listening in and hearing about the amplitude of things that's happening in Nashville and with the Titans program, and just here to serve and very excited to be here.
I was really trying to be a gentleman, but I should have known better than to follow that. So, I'm Russ Pulley, obviously recently appointed. I finished a federal law enforcement career, most of which was with the FBI, and then served 2 terms on the Metro Council, and I've been really doing nothing for the last year, so they felt sorry for me and appointed me to this position. Thank you.
Hey, Russ, are you just trying to intimidate us now with the FBI credentials? No. Because we also know you're a former council member, and thank you for your service to Metro.
Well, did it work?
He's also a football official.
Well, we're so excited to have you join us and look forward to serving with you. You've got the agenda before you. There's really not much to say. Clearly, the purpose of today's meeting is to approve the resolution and consider and approve, I should say, that would approve and release the public funds for this project. And I appreciate the diligence and the time that's gone into it already. The Finance Committee considered the resolution earlier. You all were here. And so we will continue to hear a little bit more, have a few more minutes to talk through it with our bond counsel and with our construction representative. And then finally, the Titans will present the DBE update and their monthly stadium report. And you have that information in your binder as well. Are there any questions about the agenda? Okay. So I do have a few, updates and announcements. Next Thursday, the 19th, you have a calendar hold, and we weren't sure if we were going to need to use that or not. But since you were holding it, we decided to make good use of it. And so next Thursday, we're going to have a new member orientation. And the Titans have offered Titans House, and so we will meet there from 10 to 12. And obviously, we would love for any of you to come. We do know that our 4 newer members will be there, but it's obviously open to the board and to the public. It would be considered a public meeting too. So we will send a public notice out today, so you'll see that in your email. But just wanted to announce it here and hope that you may have time to join us. Also on Tuesday, September 3rd, the Metro Council adopted Resolution RS 2024-685, which approved the MOU between the Sports Authority and the Fair Board. That's something that you all voted on last month as it relates to the Bell Construction Agreement. So just wanted to let you know that that has gone through council and been approved. Got a couple of things on the table. On October 7th, the Nashville Sports Council will host the 6th annual tip-off breakfast at First Horizon Park. And this annual event is a breakfast and panel discussion with some of our Division I women's basketball programs in the area. The event starts at 7:30, and we would love for you to attend. We'd love for the community to attend. It really is a great event and a lot of fun. And then speaking of women's basketball, you may have heard that Athletes Unlimited, which is a new model for professional women's basketball, is coming to Nashville for its 4th season. Earlier this year, AU signed a multi-year deal with ESPN. It's a 4-week season. It's a lot of fun. The roster includes a number of WNBA players, and they'll be playing at Municipal Auditorium. There's a press release in your binder. A lot of work has gone into this, and getting them here really has been a joint effort. You can hear me. A joint effort with the Sports Authority, the Nashville Sports Council, Municipal Auditorium, the NCVC, the mayor's office. We've also had just tremendous support from some local individuals, from Nancy Van Rees and the Metro Council, who offered a resolution of support. And I was thinking about that and then realized that it was 5 years ago this fall that the Sports Authority started the Women's Pro Sports Initiative. Doesn't seem like it's been that long, but it's been 5 years. And so with the help of our consultant, you all remember that we engaged CAA Icon to help us with that effort. We've studied the leagues, we've studied the market, we've studied the community. We also spent a year honoring some of our local legends during the 50th anniversary of Title IX. And so our goal of having the WNBA and the NWSL in Nashville hasn't changed, but I mean, we are really excited to have Athletes Unlimited here and just to have this level of talent in our backyard. So there'll be more information to come. The season starts in February, but we do have a short promo video to show.
Welcome back to Athletes Unlimited Pro Basketball. If you haven't watched Athletes Unlimited, you are in for a treat tonight.
Every bell, every whistle that you would see at an NBA game or a WNBA game is right here with Athletes Unlimited.
You have the talent, you have the competitiveness, you have the swag. let's not leave that out.
Lexi Brown.
And Lexi Brown with the dagger has just tied this game at 81 apiece.
This is going to be some great basketball.
Great opportunity for our players not to have to go overseas, another professional league.
She's got 41. Izzy, you are her. Okay, between the legs, step back, and splash.
Somebody knows when it's winning time, it is time to eat.
This is going to be very exciting for those who've never tuned in.
So if there are no questions, that concludes my report. More to come on that.
Thank you, Monica, for that report. That's certainly very exciting for Nashville and exciting for women's sports. I look forward to hearing a whole lot more about that, and the initiative's fantastic. So kudos to everyone involved. And also, a warm welcome to Director Crawford and a warm welcome to Director Pulley. So thank you both for your service. With that, I was remiss by not mentioning our technical staff wanted us to mention that any questions today, let's make sure that we press our button, directors. So if you do have any comments or questions or anything like that, so just make sure to do that. Be mindful. With that, we will move on to our next agenda item, which is our Finance Committee report, which is headed by our dubious director, Dan Hogan, for this riveting report. So with that, I'll turn this over to Director Hogan.
Right. I hit my button.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance Committee met this morning, and thank you to all of the members that came. We had a really extensive overview of the stadium progress as well as a number of other items associated with the project behind us here. We did initially approve our minutes for the August 15th meeting, and then the meat of the meeting really was considering a resolution that we will be considering today, which approves the 50% construction plans, the GMP amendment, the construction manager's agreement, the project budget, the catch-up amount, the MOU, the Titan's ability to fund overruns, and the rest, the satisfaction of the rest of the authority's conditions. One thing to draw the board's attention to is we did have an amendment in the MOU to include paragraph 9 with regards to utility infrastructure on 2nd Street. So that is included in the package that we are going to be recommending approval of today, not the one that ends with paragraph 8. So if there's any confusion about that, I will toss it to you, Josh. And so with that, I think Jeff and Heather are going to be available to give us a bit of a brief summary of what we talked about today.
Yeah, Jeff Oldham, Bass, Berry & Sims, counsel to Metro and the authority on this project. So I'll do a sort of a high-level run-through of the resolution. So the backstory of the resolution is in August of 23, this board approved a development agreement and issued bonds, and that started a roadmap, toward this date. And in August of 23, this board did the initial diligence to conclude that we had a real live project. And when I say a real live project is we had a preliminary design that you approved, a preliminary budget that you approved, and a review of the Titans funding sources that you reviewed to confirm that you got a budget that worked, a project that worked, and funding that worked. And the roadmap the development agreement and that bond issue laid out is that we would come to this date, and this date would be the date when that preliminary budget was no longer preliminary, but it was final. And final in part because you had a guaranteed max price contract firming up a big chunk of the project cost, and then further confirmation that initial diligence about the team's financing capability held true when matched against the final budget and potential cost overruns. And so we're now to that date. And so the resolution in front of you contemplates, the approval of several things, and I'll run through them. And we can answer any questions to the extent that they are construction related, whether it's the construction plans, the GMP amendment, or the budget. Heather Hill from Cumming Group can answer all those questions. If they're more, sort of other stuff, I'm happy to handle them. So the first thing in front of you would be the 50% construction plans that have been delivered by the team under Cumming Group's oversight. The second is a GMP amendment to the construction management agreement. The construction management agreement you approved months ago. The GMP amendment locks in a guaranteed maximum price on the project components, and it is the lion's share of the bulk of the project is under the GMP or the construction management agreement. It locks in that price. Then that with other construction documents reviewed by Cumming develops a project budget that is in front of you, an updated project budget. There is a memorandum of understanding which does a handful of sort of four things. One is it identifies two open items, which are items reflected in the plans that we don't have agreement on, but we have a proposed resolution that satisfies us. And regardless of how it's resolved, the project budget, we've confirmed that the project budget covers it. So it's a way to sort of asterisk a couple of items that still need to be worked through, but confirming that for today's purposes, it's all covered in the project budget. The MOU also does sort of think back to Imagine East Bank. There is sort of a heavy planning sort of diligence that has been done to make sure that the exterior of this project works from an Imagine East Bank metro neighborhood perspective. And so there are a long list of things where we have agreement in the project budget and the plans, how things are going to work. But it just identifies areas of continued collaboration to make sure that that all ends up like it's supposed to end up. As you mentioned, Section 9 that is now in your package addresses Second Street infrastructure, which really has nothing to do so much with the stadium project itself, but part of a site coordination agreement with Metro, part of the larger campus development. And so that is still to be worked through. And the last is sort of an acknowledgement that the sort of required 100-foot security barrier around the stadium is going to require the closure of Interstate Drive during stadium events, but that the parties are going to work otherwise to make sure it's open at all times, does not adversely impact neighborhoods, and assigns sort of operational and capital costs that might be needed to sort of firm up that security apparatus to the Titans. That's the MOU that's in front of you. You have correspondence from Inner Circle Sports and Greenberg Trarg, a financial firm and a law firm that have been engaged by this board and Metro now for 2 years to work on this project, that speaks to the sufficiency of the Titans funds to cover their portion of the project budget and cost overruns. And last but not least is you have a detail of a catch-up achievement amount. And as I walked off stage after the Finance Committee meeting, I was immediately told that I'd messed up on two counts. One was I bungled the math in how I finally got it right, but it took me too long. And the second, and maybe the more important point is, I want to make the point, this board signed up in August of 23 for a $760 million commitment, period, end of story. You never, this has, that is the maximum commitment. The catch-up achievement amount only speaks to when that 760 is spent. It doesn't increase the amount, but when it's spent, all in a way to make sure that the math ultimately works so that everybody is paying their pro rata share on a monthly basis to fund their share of project costs. So that's I've rambled a bit, but that's what's in the resolution that's in front of you. Should you approve it, then the conditions necessary to get to the funding release date would have been met, and the bond proceeds that have been sort of sitting in escrow, if you will, since August of 2023 would be released along with the state's $500 million of bond proceeds and available to contribute to the project on a monthly basis. So I'll stop. We can answer. Again, if it's construction related, this is the expert. Otherwise, we can bring. We've got folks behind us that we can bring up to answer any questions you might have.
You guys subjected yourself to 90 minutes of questions already. I don't know that the body has any others. If not, the Finance Committee did vote unanimously to recommend approval of the resolution. And barring any other comments, that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Director Hogan. Having said that, from the Finance Committee brought forward, we have a recommendation. And, it's kind of going once, going twice. Does anybody have any further questions, comments that you would have?
I'll make a motion for approval to accept the Finance Committee recommendation.
I second.
Very good. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on a motion to approve a resolution approving all budget and design matters for an enclosed football stadium? There being no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And with that, let me say this to Mr. Oldham and Ms. Hill. Thank you so very much. Our meeting this morning, the finance meeting, was fantastic. And what I told you in the break, educated clients are good clients. And I think you've both done a fantastic, excellent job educating not just our board, but also the general public. And so with that, we really thank you very much as a board body. So thank you very much and have a good rest of your day. Very good. With that, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is a report from the Titans regarding DBE update and monthly stadium report. We have Adolfo Birch and Kellen DeCourcy to give those updates. So with that, welcome, gentlemen.
All right. Let me start by thanking you, as always, for allowing us to report to you on progress associated with this stadium and this what we consider to be a generational project. So, at our last meeting, you asked, and we said that we would be able to report on our DBE and workforce participation in more detail at this meeting, and I am fortunate to be able to say that we are, in fact, able to do that. So what we thought would be that we would give a little information on both DBE and workforce, and then follow up with more of the customary progress report on the stadium construction that you have been getting previously, if that works for everybody. We said from the start that this project was about participation and about including all elements of our city, our state, and part of this process. And so we think what you will see is that we have from the beginning maintained a pillar on this project that we will be robust in all ways as it relates to our participation efforts. We set a goal of 25% for our DBE participation overall, and we are happy to report that through the course of this, you will see that we expect to meet and exceed that number through the end of the project. I would also say I want to make sure everybody kind of understands from a level setting standpoint the three entities involved that are what we would call contracting entities or entities that hold contracts. Those are TBS on the design and architect end, TBA on the construction end, and then Titans Direct, which would be the things that the Titans have agreed to handle personally. The second thing I would say is that from a measurement standpoint, there are kind of two ways you can look at participation. One is looking at the projections based on your executed recommendations of award, sort of as you understand who you are planning to use in the project that come through that way, both primes and subs. The second is to look at sort of the back end, which is what has actually been paid to DBE companies following the performance of their work. Both are important. Both provide information that's helpful, and we think it's important to share both of those with you. But if I might, I'd like to start with the latter to talk about the actual things that have been paid. So, there we go. Okay, so this is a snapshot of, and it represents the payments that have actually been made to DBEs from all three of the contracting entities. And that is as of September 10. So you can see that total pay to the DBE firms amounts to 10,700,000+, and you can see the breakdown within those by category to understand where those payments have been received thus far. The interesting point in my view is that to date there have been 30 firms that are DBE that have been utilized thus far, 25 of which are MBEs or WBEs. And I think that we should note that with the approval of the GMP now, there's going to be this catch-up process that I think Jeff Oldham mentioned earlier, in which now you're going to start to see even more input and entry into the system that will help us to spend forward more firms, more spending, and more payments received, particularly for things like infrastructure that have been incurred but not yet put into the system because of the waiting for the GMP approval.
Mr. Birch, one moment. We have a question from the floor.
Just curious, is the DBE, those categories, is that the same as what Metro recognizes as, I mean, do you have to be DBE certified through Metro and they same breakout of categories just to make sure we're looking apples to apples?
Yes, I think there are three different certifications that are accepted, all of which are utilized by Metro as in any normal course.
And do you have to be pre-qualified or on that list to?
Yes, so the BAO has a list of certifications that are accepted, and every one of the firms that we are working with has been vetted and confirmed as contributing to the makeup of the DBE. Yeah, the BAO.
We have one more question from Director Hogan.
Adolfo, you mentioned at the beginning we have a 25% target for DBEs, correct? Mm-hmm. Are there sub-targets for these subcategories, SPE, MBA, WBE?
So they're not. There's not an overall target for those, but what we've been doing is we work with BAO. So for each particular package that comes out, they take a look. They determine what should be a reasonable target for those specific categories, specifically MBE and WBE, and we incorporate those, or whichever contracting entity it is, incorporates those into the RFPs. Those become sort of for that package what we're trying to hit for each one.
So is it accurate to say then that the soft-spoken goal here is that these would be equal categorically at the end of the project?
No, I think the goal is to maximize each of them as possible within the larger DBE target goal.
Understood. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let me, if we're good on that end, let me turn you to the other half of the equation, which is looking forward, trying to understand it through a projection standpoint. So here's some information, and I should probably note that all of this information has also been posted to our website so that if any members or the public, anyone wants to kind of understand it in more detail or take additional review, they are welcome to do so. But this reflects what we have been talking about in terms of executed recommendations of award and where we think that's going to net us out. And as you can see, for everything to date through the second quarter, we are anticipating at this point as much as $242,877,000 plus dollars to be awarded to DBE firms off of a $903 million total from an executed ROA standpoint thus far. That number will continue to evolve as final contract values are assigned. And of course, there's also, and we have John Gromos here from TBA who will speak about it a little further, but as we get more of the awards out, there's another round of awards coming. Obviously, we expect these numbers to change as well. But as we said at the beginning, we think that based on these projections and our future hopes, we think we will certainly meet or exceed our 25% goal. And as you can see, we're coming in now at 27. But maybe I should turn it over at this point because I think John can talk a little bit more to now we're in the post-GMP phase and what that means.
Sure. Again, John Gromos. I'm the principal in charge of Tennessee Builders Alliance, TBA, which is the construction manager for the project. And as Adolfo said, with the numbers on the board, up to this point, we have awarded contracts right at $900 million, and you can see the percentage of DBE. Now that we have the approval to execute the guaranteed maximum price amendment, the GMP amendment, we will continue with the procurement of the balance of the subcontracts, and all of those have, targeted DBE participation as well. So as Adolfo said, as we execute the balance of those subcontracts, finalize the rest of those awards, we'll continue to update the improvement of these numbers, and we expect that they'll continue to progress in a positive way.
If there are no questions on that, I think we can turn to workforce as well and give a little update on that point.
Yeah. So the next slide, this is a snapshot in time as well of where we are relative to the composition of the workforce on the project. As you can see, there's 843 workers who have performed work on the stadium up to this point, almost 215,000 work hours associated with that. The majority of that work has been performed by minority workers, almost 70%, almost 120,000 work hours associated with minority. You'll see the female composition is pretty low right now, just based on the phase of work we're in with excavation and some foundation work and concrete. That portion of the workforce is not as prevalent. We expect that those numbers will increase and improve as we move into other trades, especially the interiors packages, and we'll provide updates on these percentages and these participations going forward. Another very important component of what we're all focused on is opportunities for promise zone sub-zones. And you can see we've really had great engagement. Almost 27% of the workers who've worked on this come from promise zone subzones. And you can see almost 50,000 hours associated with that. So we'll continue to report these numbers as we go forward as well.
Do you have a question?
Can you give us an update as to accident or injury over the course of the last phase of the project?
Yeah, so through the 215,000 man hours, we've had 2 recordable injuries. Both occurred through our concrete subcontractor. One would involve stitches. Just a worker tripped and cut his leg, had a few stitches that he came back to work right away. But anytime you get stitches, it automatically reports as a recordable injury. And then the second injury was a worker who was tying rebar with a tool, and as he pulled that tool, it actually hit someone in the face, and it knocked a tooth out. And that was taken care of immediately. That worker actually came back to work later that day. So we've had 2. Those are the only 2 recordables that we've had.
And that second incident was recent, so it wouldn't have been. That probably wouldn't have been reported in your most recent report because it came after.
Yeah.
Mr. Burks, question as well. This. Can we go back to the previous slide? We had the on the left on the chart. We have the 27%, and just to be clear, is that a projection at this point? And I just want to be clear for everyone. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. That is a projection, but it's based on executed recommendations of award. So it's our view that it's certainly something that we can reasonably rely on, at least as a projection.
Understood. And is this information going to be made public? Is it public anywhere right now?
It is, and it has.
Okay,
so we'll have this both on our site. We'll report on it regularly here.
Very good.
We'll do it in a number of different ways.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah, I'm just going to shift. So, again, we'll continue to report the workforce. I wanted to note just a couple of other things. Our average workforce right now, you'll continue to see the workforce increase. Our 7-day average of workers on site is 514. That will continue to ramp up as more of the structure is in place and we work into the interiors of the building. We anticipate a peak labor count of over 1,600 workers on any given day, and we anticipate that'll happen in the third quarter of 2026. So as we forecast the work and see the timing of when we're going to be peak labor, that'll be 2 years from now. And then the project will finish very quickly after that. So in addition to the workforce that's already been engaged, workforce development is focused on training and creating more people who can enter the workforce in the construction trades in particular. So I'll share with you our Titans Construction Training Camp, which we call TC2, is a workforce development program that's been in place now. We've graduated 2 cohorts. We have a 3rd cohort going in place, and we'll look forward to updating this board on the progress we've made with hiring and moving people through the program successfully into employment.
May I ask a question? So I know and commend the Titans on the program you stood up, but we also have a significant number of trades and training centers locally. How are you also tapping into those existing resources to supplement the project?
Yeah. So we've had great emphasis on workforce development. So this is not a siloed program that has been done in a vacuum. And I am not the expert in this scope of work, but I can assure you that we've worked with the state and the city with outreach programs and collaborating with existing entities that already have workforce development programs in place. We're engaged in collaborating to actually have some training support and help through those entities. We have a tremendous amount of information on the website that communicates who those partners are to make all this happen. Be glad to follow up with that information or point everyone in the right direction to see really the magnitude of what's happened in conjunction with the TC2 here on site.
if I can add on that point, one of the things I think that was important from the Titans in on this was that it really needed to be a holistic way of looking at workforce development and training. And so I think TBA ought to be commended for the way their system is set up, because it's set up to both take advantage of other existing resources, Project Return, or, and the like, to really not only provide training opportunities, but to provide surrounding support services for those who might not be at a place where they can utilize the actual training. So as this program comes in, or as people come into the program, some of them are able to be redirected in places that ultimately will help move them along the path back to reintegration. So it's not simply just, taking applicants, wheeling that down and doing a training for a smaller number of people. It does involve most of those.
I'm just familiar with the Music City Construction Careers Program. I know they're doing a lot of great work, and just making sure that that is also part of the plan. So.
Absolutely. So if there are no other questions on that, I think we can turn it over to Kellen to provide you with a much better construction report than I typically would give. So.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Kellen DeCourcy with the Tennessee Titans, and I'm pleased to share the construction update with you all. And I know this project is making significant project and is starting to become more visible above the construction fence. And just some stats and facts, as John noted, we have about 500 workers on the job site daily, almost 200,000 labor hours on the project. And just as a point of reference, on the soccer stadium, the peak labor force was 600. So we're already approaching that. that. We've actually excavated 400,000 cubic yards of dirt, and we've drilled about 770 drilled piers that are the drilled piers that support the columns of the stadium. They go down 30 to 50 feet down into bedrock. So I wanted to show you just the amount of work that's taken place over the past 5 months. This would be in earnest our first day of construction, really. This is March 28th when we put the first bucket in the ground. And you can see that there's really not much happening there. We don't have the Titanstown trailer complex in place. And then move forward here to this is August 28th. So literally 5 months later, you can see the amount of work that has taken place. It's quite impressive. The building is really coming into shape. You can actually start to see the field wall starting to take place. And just to give you a little overview of the logistics of the project, what's happening here in the upper left-hand corner, that's the northwest corner of the stadium. That is where TBA started the workforce with the concrete superstructure. We have 4 separate framing crews that are moving in opposite directions of one another, one moving clockwise, the other moving counterclockwise, and they'll ultimately meet in the opposite corner in the southeast corner. And then they also have separate concrete forming crews forming up all of the columns and foundations. And then in a week or so, we'll be having another concrete crew starting to form the underground garage that we talked about earlier. So a lot going on, and you can also see that the Titanstown trailer complex is completely assembled up on the north side there. Here's another example of the progress on the superstructure. Again, this is kind of going to be the mode of the stadium for the next 5 months is the concrete superstructure in the frame that will go through the end of the season into early next year. What you're seeing here is a snapshot, a photo taken from Nissan Stadium looking at new Nissan Stadium. And essentially you'll see here the top deck that you're seeing is the main concourse. Here's a snapshot from our webcam that everyone can take a look at on site or online. And so what you're seeing here is the 4 massive cranes that have mobilized onto the project. These are what helps facilitate the superstructure erection. There is a crane for each quadrant of the stadium, so that ultimately helps lift and set the formwork, the rebar, and placing the concrete. So those will be here for quite some time. And then here's another snapshot of a photo on the left of the superstructure in the background, but in the front of the photo is the top of our cistern tank, which is part of our sustainability story. That's about 140,000 gallon storage tank that stores rainwater that we'll reuse for flushing toilets and our HVAC makeup water system. And then on the right-hand side, that is another photo of the superstructure that is actually standing somewhere around that 2nd Street that we were talking about earlier today. And then lastly here is another photo of the, on the left-hand side, you can see these columns rising. These are about 36-foot tall columns. There's, the photo is taken in one of our future marketplaces, as we talked about, very excited about the future of frictionless technology for our fan base. This is standing in one of those large northwest corner markets. Once the existing stadium is demolished, that will, right from that area, you'll have amazing views to downtown. And then lastly, the photo on the right is standing inside the field, looking back at the stadium seating bowl, and you can start to see the forming of the rakers that will support the future precast stadia that's being set in that top level that you see there is the main concourse. And that concludes the construction update. Unless there's any questions.
This is really fun for us to see, so I appreciate that you give us up-to-the-minute details. I'd just like to know when the field trip is.
Oh, yeah, I think we're ready. We've got PPE lined up, but you let us know.
I will also throw in a plug for our live cam, so that any of you who go to NashvilleStadiumConstruction.com, you can look and see real-time what's going on over there. It actually is very interesting to watch, believe it or not.
And it's also on the Sports Authority website. So, are there any other questions for the Titans while we've got them here? Well, there being none, gentlemen, Mr. DeCourcy, Mr. Birch, and Mr. Gromos, thank you so very much for being here and fielding questions. We really appreciate the information in the report. Thank you for getting us the DBE numbers. Those were fantastic. So look forward to continuing to hear more about that. And with that, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's right. That's right. That's it. This concludes our agenda. This was easier than I thought. Our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, October the 17th at Bridgestone Arena. Staff will confirm whether there is the necessity of a finance committee meeting. Are there any final questions and or comments? And if not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. And a second. With that being said, our agenda items in the meeting has been adjourned. Thank you so very much.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.